This is Never Gallimore from the Dallas Cowboys, and I want to give a major shout out to Mike Tag. Keep bringing the hype to the Cowboys Nation. We love and appreciate it. Now, can you dig it? Let's get it.
Woo! What's up, Cowboys Nation?
What is up? It's your boy Mike Tag here. We had a little technical difficulties, so now it's on a different stream, but hopefully you guys find it. But we got to get things rolling. It's the off season. I got to bring my man Jay Tuck. I hadn't seen him since we were partying down in Tampa, feeling pretty good, and you went down to San Francisco. We don't want to talk about that too much. But how are you doing today, brother? How's everything going?
I'm doing good, man. Like you said, we had a good time down there in Tampa, and unfortunately down there in San Francisco, things didn't go as planned, but I had a good time, man. It was fun. Like San Francisco 49ers fans, surprisingly, Mike, man, a lot of them recognized me from the internet. So, I was out there walking around the tailgate and people were coming up to me like, "Hey man, you're Jay Tuck." I'm just like, possibly, like, but 49ers fans, when they had a good time, unfortunately, Cowboys did not win. And for some weird reason today, I was doing some draft breakdown and a few prospect, but something said, watch that 49ers game. So I went back and watched the film and I felt sick. I'm just like, all right, turn this mess off. So my day was going good until I peeped at that game, man, but I cannot complain, man.
No, we're gonna get into it, but I just want to say, hey, you guys, we got a lot of stuff going on this channel. I know Jay Ty, he's the king. No one works harder than him. The draft coverage is like no other. My son watches your stuff all the time, and obviously all the great content. But we got some interviews coming up, and we got, I don't know if I told you, Jake, my boy Barry Switzer is going to be coming on. And we got a lot to say. And I wanted to play you a little clip. This is probably one of my favorite Barry Switzer moments. So I just wanted to share this. You guys know about that infamous 4th-and-1. So I'm going to be asking about that. But at that season, we had a little payback against Philly and game of beating. So Barry Switzer in his post-game press conference. This is what I miss about some coaches. Had this to say.
We kicked their ass today. We played like that last time. It wouldn't have to even come down to a 4th and foot. So let's bury that son of a okay, before I take that mic.
How about?
I love that, man. You could say what you want, the whole situation with Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones, and he's going to talk about it. But he was 12, and I mean, he was had 5 playoff wins. We'd take that right now, wouldn't we?
Right, we would love that.
Championship, Super Bowl. So it's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
See, that's what a lot of the younger Cowboys fans don't understand. We used to be this dirty, grimy, arrogant team, didn't care what people thought about us. Like that used to be the Dallas Cowboys. But after Switzer kind of left, things kind of changed a little bit. But a lot of people don't understand, like Texas Stadium, Dallas Cowboys. We were like, the reason why people hate the Cowboys fans is because we were arrogant, we were brash, we were in your face, like we had the most talent. There's nothing you can do to stop it, right? And just, I just miss that culture, man. I miss those interviews. No. I miss that type of fire, man.
I do. And the funny thing, I'm going to play you one more. I've looked for this for 30 years. And I'll say, I do the hype videos. I get going. And I've been waiting. This is probably one of my favorite NFC Championship post-game interviews and responses after winning a game. And I've been waiting to use this in one of my hype videos. And every time I say this is going to be the week I do it, we come up short. But I'm going to play you one more. This is my favorite, and I found it, so I got to share.
Don't nobody deserve it more than our head coach, Barry Switzer. He take all the maligning, give him his due. We going home.
Now that's what I'm talking. I've been waiting to say we're going home, and I thought this was the year, and I'm getting ready to do it, and I'm like, man, we came up short, but
you've been going home, all right.
we went home, but that's the kind of the passion that. Man, we got to get back to them days. And what do you think? You follow the Cowboys, more than anybody I know, and you've got a lot of great content. And what's your thoughts with this team going in the off season? Obviously, Kellen Moore making that change, and I know people talk about, well, he's got the number one offense, they've been top 5 offense, this and that. But if you're a Cowboys fan and you watch the games, you know that's not really accurate.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think that's the difficulty when you have the Kellen Moore conversation. 'Cause I know a lot of Cowboys fans are like, Tuck, look at number one offense, high in scoring, all these stats, right? And it really becomes a filter and blinds people thinking that our offense is super efficient. But what you have to look at, Cowboys Nation, is how did our offense really do in big moments, right? And we had the Tampa, right? And that was the most frustrating thing, Mike, about the San Francisco game. We saw it with our own eyes. We hit the Tampa Bay Bucks with the kitchen sink. I mean, we went heavy formation. We had, 2-back personnel. We got Zeke involved. We got Pollard involved. We got Dak was using his legs, RPOs, and we're like, okay, tempo, there it is, right? And then San Francisco is like, there was none of that. And so I think that is the biggest frustration when it came to Kellen Moore, is the lack of consistency. You'll see it one week and you might not see it for another 6 or 7 weeks, right? I always go back to, remember, I forgot what game it was, and I think it may have been Thanksgiving, the Jake Ferguson and Hendershot when they were doing the whack-a-mole thing.
Yep.
We didn't see those kids after that. They just wasn't involved in the offense after that. And so it was frustrating. So I feel like the most important thing that the Cowboys need to do this offseason is find out who they are. Like I said, back in the days, Cowboys Nation, we were a tough team. We were going to start with Emmett. We were going to hit you in the face with Emmitt Smith, and then opens up the game for Michael Irvin, Alvin Harper, Jay Novacek, and those guys. But we were a tough, physical offense and defense. When it comes to the Cowboys now, we don't know what our identity is. So we really don't have a North Star where things get rattled a little bit. What are we going to get back to? We all watched the Super Bowl. The Eagles were going to go out with the RPO, running Jalen Hurts, doing that tush push, quarterback sneak. Like, they came into the party this way. They were going to lead the party this way. And fortunately, it didn't work out in their favor, right? They know who they are. As Cowboys fans and the Cowboys, we just don't. Are we a passing team? Maybe. One week we might be a passing team. You might see Dak throw 45 times. One week we might be a running team. You'll see, it's just too much. So I think that Mike McCarthy is really going to reel things back in and simplify things for this Cowboys offense. And I think it's going to give us a huge boost. So the numbers might not be as sexy as Kellen Moore, right? But we'll know what we're trying to do. So
yeah, and I think that's the thing with McCarthy. You've seen it. He I don't think he didn't hire Kellen Moore, and
Right.
McCarthy's an offensive guy. When you bring a coach in, he wants to do it his way, and you can see the frustration building because if you watch his press conferences, he was giving them slight digs even more and more. And when I talked, I had Stephon Page, former Kansas City Chief, on the week of the Super Bowl. We talked about Dak. Charlie Waters, a Cowboys legend, he was on the show before the Super Bowl. We talked, and I always bring up Dak. And the thing that they always say is just the consistency, just the inconsistent play that he has, where one game it's like, man, he's lighting the world on fire, and the next game it's like, who's this guy? Now, do you think it's more on Dak, or do you think it's the offensive game plan and setting him up for success? Because we talk about that San Francisco game. It's second and 2. You're inside the 20. You're going into halftime, and what are they running 5 wide? And instead of just pounding the rock and just getting a touchdown, and just win. Don't be cute, like Jimmy Johnson used to say. Don't be cute, just be good. And I think Moore's just got too cute. So do you think it's Dak? Do you think he has the capabilities to lead this team?
Yeah, I think Dak has the complete tool set to really lead this team. Now, to answer the question, I think it was a combination of both, right? It was the scheme, it was Dak, it was the limitation of the wide receivers. Like, it was just a huge cluster, right? But I think that Dak, he possesses everything that you need, right? He has the arm strength. He has the knowledge and the intellect at the line of scrimmage, right? He can use his legs. He can do a lot of different things, right? But I felt like the biggest frustration for Dak and also the offense this year was we didn't know how to just get him back in rhythm. Like, when Dak is hot and he's heating up, okay, everything is cool. But when he's off a little bit, hey, let's just simplify things. A quick RPO, quick throw to CeeDee Lamb or Michael Gallup to get him back in rhythm. But it's like, they kind of just left them cold and kind of let them float out there. And I remember, I think it was after the Jacksonville game, I dropped a video because a lot of people were asking, like, "Yo, Tuck, what is going on with these interceptions?" And so I'm like, "Well, let me actually see." Now, besides the goofy ones hitting wide receivers in the hands, I was like, "What is the trend?" And if I looked at the trend, when we were backed up in our own territory,
Mhm.
like our wide receivers were stopping at the sticks, pretty much at the first down marker, like every time. And I'm just like, okay. And then the corners were just jumping it because there was no fear of a double move are getting beat over the top. And you saw that trend after trend to the point in the San Francisco game where he threw the one to Michael Gallup, even though it was goofy. I was in the stands kind of feeling like, oh man, like shaking a
Yeah.
little bit, like, here we go, right? And what happened? It was a curl route. Michael Gallup kind of stopped and stuttered, and that corner jumped because he was fearful of no repercussions if that was to happen. So it's just frustrating to think that if I can sit from my couch in Kansas City and pick up on these things, I can imagine what D'Amico Ryan's picking up on.
Well,
It's
that's what I'm saying. Hey, you're seeing it. You
yeah,
know these defenses are seeing
yeah.
it. So that's that. To the point. That's what made the Moore's offense so frustrating. And what's up, real quick? The primetime Phil Colts Cowboy.
Oh
Love
my
you
God.
guys. Appreciate you joining. And I got a man saying Hurts is the best QB in the NFC East. Now let's just you know I've given Philly a hard time. I don't know. I know you have. You had a field day. You had a field day, and I know you got under the skin because then they started, copy and paste and doing all different stuff. So
Yeah,
that's you got them where you want them.
right.
But the thing I'll say, and I got to give, and I did it before. Got to give credit where credit's due. Hurts in that Super Bowl was the whole team from
Mhm.
running to passing. Now I don't know about that 20-yard Hail Mary he threw, but
Yeah.
he's if you're going to go off now,
Mhm.
maybe he is the best quarterback in the NFCs.
Well, I would say talent for talent, no, because here's the thing. A lot of people have to understand we've seen a lot of quarterbacks flash, right? 1 year,
Mhm.
can you do it on a consistent basis? That's the question mark. Now, I believe Jalen Hurts does possess all the talent to be a great NFL quarterback, right? But I'm not going to just give him everything after 1 year. We've
Yeah,
seen RG3s. We've seen Cam Newton go on an MVP Super Bowl run and vanish, can't even get a job right now. So it's
yeah.
like, can you do it on a consistent basis? The one thing I do like about Jalen Hurts, and I think that probably would have helped the Cowboys versus San Fran, there was no hesitation for him just to take off. And when I went back and watched the game today, there was nothing there. Wide receivers were getting jammed up, locked up. Offensive line fought okay, but there was just opportunity for Dak to really just go recess. And once Tony Pollard went down,
Yeah.
I felt like that was the kind of the game plan. Like, yo, Dak, if we're gonna get up out of here with the win, it's not just gonna be by you dropping back and throwing 40 plus times. You are going to have to really put this team on his back, and unfortunately, he did. And so, it's all about consistency for Hurts and also Dak Prescott. I'm not taking anything away from Hurts. Like, yeah, he did play phenomenal in the Super Bowl, just came up short, right? But like you said, we've all seen this happen
We say
before. And
Carson Wentz. I mean, they seen it with their own eyes. They were anointing him the great one. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Right. It wasn't too far long ago. We were having the same
Yeah.
argument. I remember I started my channel in 2020, and it was this whole thing about Dak and Carson Wentz, Dak and Carson Wentz. And I remember saying, about the second time the Cowboys played the Eagles, Carson Wentz won't be your quarterback. Nah, you're crazy. What do you got? I'm like, Jalen Hurts was far better than
Yeah.
Carson. But so I get it. It's the rivalry. You got to believe with your guy and compare. But it's just like, you guys just played against Pat Mahomes. And Jalen Hurts kind of played well. I won't say he outperformed. Why don't you compare him to Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen or Justin Herbert? If Dak is just this horrible top 15 quarterback, why are you always trying to eye him as your measuring stick? Aim
Yeah.
higher. So, but I get it, Eagles
Yeah,
fan.
it's like it's what they call little man syndrome.
Right, yeah, little brother syndrome,
Little
man.
brother
I get it.
syndrome, whatever you want to call it. And they always seem to have it. And the funny thing is so before the Super Bowl, I wanted to have. Hey, I'm fair. I want to be fair to everyone. So I
Great.
invited Chiefs. I invited some Eagles, and the Eagles, when they saw Cowboys cave, Mike Ted, they would refuse to come on my show. So Kansas City at least stepped up. So we know
Yeah,
how the Eagles are, man. It's like I said, and I meant it. You and I, we saw what happened when they played. We'll just say Dallas was a above average, really good offense. We dropped 40 on them.
Right.
And there was no doubt that the Chiefs were going to expose this defense for the frauds that they were, and they're sitting there
Yeah.
comparing them to the 85 Bears and all that crap. So,
Yeah.
but it was no surprise. The only question I had was the Chiefs defense going to be able
Mhm.
to score more, to hold them down, and they did. So
Yeah.
we're done, right? We're looking forward. We look back. The big question that I think a lot of it's hot is the running game. So you got Zeke and Pollard. Pollard obviously, unfortunately, got that got a bad injury in the playoffs. Zeke, I love him, and it just breaks my heart when I just kind of see what happened, in the last few weeks. And there's a lot of hype, and you're the draft expert, right? So, Bijan is the hot topic. What do you think? And then I see these running backs in the 7th round,
Yeah.
Kansas City, and then so where are you thinking Cowboys? What do they do with the running game? They're in a weird spot.
Yeah, well, great segue because I'm going to go live here in a little bit and talk about the running back class. And to be honest with you guys, it's very deep. There's so much talent. It's so talented and so deep to the point I could look both of them actually walk, right? But I don't think that's the case. Tony Pollard will be back more than likely on a franchise tag, right? Now, here comes the tough conversation when it comes to Ezekiel Elliott. You guys can see he's back there on my wall. So we love Zeke, man, but it's just okay. His agent came out and said that they're going to kind of go to the combine, kind of poke around and see what other opportunities out there kind of lies. Then they possibly can do a restructure, right? But it's like if you restructure Zeke's contract, like what does it go to? Like if is Ezekiel Elliott worth a $5 million a year? I just don't see it at this point, not with this draft class, not with Malik Davis. And so even if he's not going to take something disrespectful. I saw some people like, man, he'll take $1 million. I'm like, absolutely not, but it's just like, if we restructure and pay him 5 to 6 mil, even with that is too steep because you're going to have Tony Pollard on the tag for almost $11 million there. So it's just like, I just don't see the value. So if I had to bet my money on it, I just don't see Zeke returning as a Dallas Cowboy unless he's going to take some drastic pay cut, incentivize something, right?
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, right? Because I felt like, Zeke wants to be drafted him in 2016, even though I wasn't a fan of that draft pick. I came around.
Okay.
I came around, right? But it's just like, I just don't see the value. And what I do not want, y'all, and we've seen this so many times in Cowboys Nation, if we want to do things the Patriots way, we can't show any loyalty to players, right? And we've seen instances where we had old man Jason Witten. Jason Witten's right here on my wall, right? But we know he was kind of at the end of his road, but he was still out there, still in reps from Jarwin, still in reps from Stoltz, and the same thing we saw with Sean Lee, kind of. And then you don't want to have Ezekiel Elliott out there getting 8 to 10, maybe 13 carries where that can go to Pollard or Malik Davis or one of these younger rookies that's a little bit more explosive. So tough conversation, but I tell Cowboys fans, man, I remember that day when I got that alert that Dez Bryant has been released for the Cowboys. I left work that day. I told my manager I have to go. I left work that day. I came home, went on a complete rampage about getting rid of Dez, man, but we'll get over it, right? So it's just one of those things, man. But I don't see what's going to happen with Zeke. So
No, and anyone who knows me knows, you look at the man, but over my shoulder, I'm a running back fan. Emmitt Smith's my
right,
favorite player, Tony Dorsett. If Emmitt Smith and Tony Dorsett can end up in another uniform, any
right,
Cowboy can. So it'd be very disappointing. But I understand it. And honestly, I would say even, when Pollard went down in the 49er game, I was just hoping they would have given Davis some
right,
opportunity. He ran hard. I mean, I remember him in Florida. And I mean,
yeah,
he's a tough running back. And I think that's what you see. So, is the way the game is. Do you invest heavy in that line and give your line and then just kind of plug running backs in every 4 years? You're kind of swapping them out. You see these teams do it. You've seen what Kansas City's been able to do. I mean, that 7th round pick. I mean,
right,
is it Pacheco? Am I saying his name right?
yeah. Isaiah
Yeah.
Pacheco, yeah,
I
7
mean,
round,
he was awesome in that game. And
right.
you see Walker from Seattle, which I remember him well from the beating he gave the Miami Hurricanes single handedly, about 250
Right.
or whatever he threw. So you see this with the running backs, and I know Robinson is that guy. And if he falls to you at 20, is it one of those like CD, you just can't pass him up?
I think from Jerry's standpoint, it'll be hard to pass up on him because he's box office. Now, Bijan is the only player running back I would consider taking at that 26 pick,
Yeah.
right? Because he can really just honestly, if you take Bijan, you got to tell Zeke and Pollard to pretty much pack their bags, right? Because he's blockbuster. He needs 15, 20, all those touches needs to go to Bijan. And he's going to sell jerseys. He's going to lighten the blow for the fan base. It's going to be upset if Zeke has to walk and we lose Pollard, right? So Bijan would be the simple fix, but I just don't see him falling. So there's going to be some other names though, like Jamari Gibbs out of Alabama. You have Devon A-Chain, who I just dropped the video session on, out of Texas A&M. Just explosive running backs. Now, to be honest with you guys, there's a few kind of those power backs, that kind of fits that old school mode, but there's a lot of guys in this draft that's explosive and running 4.2s and low 4.3s that if you let them get on the outside can definitely have impact. You're talking all the way deep into day 2, you can get one of these guys. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. If I had to put my money on it, like I said, I think that will franchise tag Tony Pollard.
Mm-hmm.
And then Zeke, but see, here's the thing, Mike. Where do you see Zeke's value for another NFL team? Like averaging 2 yards a carry, like it's going to be a hard conversation.
Yeah.
Like, and I've been one of the people kind of bought in on the off-season workout videos and the cutting over trash cans. Like, all right, this is going to be a year. He's going to have a bounce back year. But then last year, it's like, all right, Tuck, like, all right.
I think the mind is there, just the body.
Right.
These running backs take punishments, and that's why I've been very public on it. I haven't changed my stance, and a lot of people make it about the money with him. He's earned every penny that he's
Right.
made with the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
And these running backs, they got to get that opportunity to cash in, because you just see what happens. The shelf life is 6-7 years, and they get thrown away, and you don't know how your body's going to be. Go look at Earl Campbell, go look at Tony Dorsett, look at these great running backs. So I wish him the best, and I hope it works out. I mean, I've got him. He's well represented in my cave, as I say. So it would break my heart to see him in another uniform. But I do. It's unfortunately, football's a business, and so the other business side is tight end. So you got.
If you think about it, the running backs. Like, when is the last generational running back that's kind of like you had Adrian Peterson? And it's kind of been like a fall off.
One.
I mean, every year is a new guy, right? It's Jonathan Taylor, and then it's Derrick Henry for a little bit. Then you have a splash of Dalvin Cook and like Saquon, and so it's like it's just not that position anymore. You get 4-5 years, maybe. Think of like Le'Veon. Think about how Le'Veon Bell was. He held out from Pittsburgh. He was one of the top running backs, and once he finally went to Kent, like he vanished off the face of the earth. So
all the running backs seem. I mean, you can go back to like it was Priest Holmes, and then it was the other guy. Arian Foster, and some of the they vanish, and I think that's just unfortunate with the running backs and the way it is. That's why, hey, cash in when you can. I don't hate on them, but Speaking of, so tight end. So, you were there and saw it with your own eyes. I had to see it on TV, and it's just kind of, maybe I'm being overly critical. Maybe I'm just, being upset. The way that Schultz kind of finished those last couple plays just really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And it's kind of say, you know what, man, you just not all in. And we just gotta, maybe it's time to move on and let these young tight ends take over.
Yeah, man. And that's why I was so vocal last offseason. Like, I was not really a fan of tagging Dalton Schultz because, one, I knew how deep this last year's class was at the tight end position. But two, it's just like, I want something more. And I know I was always kind of joke about this online, but the Dallas Cowboys kind of have this mold at tight end where it's not really a guy that can really stretch the field. It's kind of just a zone setting, move the chains type of tight end. Like, I want some guys that can go. And I think that's really going to help this Cowboys offense is because a lot of teams kind of play that zone against us. And so when you have the young rookies and Ferguson and Hendershot really emerge, they were doing different things, like in Tampa, where I think it was Ferg that ran the wheel route, and they get the ball in space and they're leaping over the fence. Like, they're a little bit more younger and juvenile to do a lot more things than Dalton Schultz is kind of just catch it and fall down, catch it, stiff
Yeah.
arm.
And you
Like,
want him to fall down because I swear to God, I don't know if you feel that way. If people wrap him up and get around him, I think he's going to fumble every time.
yeah, well, he had a few issues, right? He was getting the ball punched out and all sorts of stuff, right? So it's just like I just didn't see the urgency in franchise tagging Dalton Schultz last year. So I think the Cowboys will move on from Dalton Schultz. You do have the young too. There is a lot of sexy tight ends in this draft class as well. So you can go and get another one. So yeah, I'm moving on from Dalton Schultz. We appreciate your contributions, but even before the injury happened, I was always had Blake Jarwin over Dalton Schultz just from a talent aspect, but Blake Jarwin couldn't stay healthy. But I feel like Dalton Schultz, and I really thought that we were going to lean on him to be that Dak safety blanket for him. He's going to have a good season, but what a lot of Cowboys fans got to understand, when you're playing on that franchise tag, you're not going all out. So to go back to some of those plays, he kind of looks like he's loafing, right? You're not going to sacrifice without having that guaranteed money. So that's the one thing I hate is have those franchise tag players. What is the mental aspect, right? Because even with Tony Pollard, like Tony Pollard is not going to come back franchise tag until he is 1,000% healthy. And also he's confident, he's not going to, put his body and sacrifice on the line because he gets hurt. These players, they saw what happened to Dak Prescott. Like Dak got lucky that he got another deal after he broke his leg, but Dalton Schultz might not be that fortunate. So, I appreciate the services, but I'm moving on for Dalton Schultz, and we'll probably get another tight end 3 in the draft.
Yeah. And so you see, we're focusing on offense. I don't know if you feel it, but I just think I love the defense. I think they just got to, maybe get a couple missing pieces, in free agency or in the draft. But so now we go to receiver. And now I'm seeing a trend that Ken Dak, how Dak's going to be, and McCarthy, and with the offense, so you're changing your tight end, running back potentially. There could be a little change up there. Could be a little shake up there. Wide receivers. So I was one of those, and I had a Amari Cooper jersey in my cave, but I was like, you know what? They're not seeing the value for the money. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Hindsight 2020, probably a big mistake because I was thinking maybe they're going out to get somebody. They draft Jalen Tolbert. I get a lot of hate for it. I know you probably do. I'm still not giving up on him. I was I saw him play a lot in college, so I had a lot of, I thought he was going to get there, and I don't know what happened there. Maybe the injury to Dak early on. Maybe they kind of hurt the opportunity. With Rush taking in their 5 games of being a rookie. I don't know, but what are you seeing in that receiving core? Do you just see an overhaul? Going on there?
Well, I keep telling people, right, the very first domino to let me know how this offseason is going to go is what happens with Noah Brown. If I get that tweet that the Dallas Cowboys have re-signed Noah Brown, Cowboys Nation, I'm like, all right, here we go. It's just the same old, right? But I feel like it does need an overhaul. Michael Gallup, injuries, kind of came back, said he was limited playing through injury. So I appreciate the effort, but also there's a chance that the Cowboys can get out of Michael Gallup's contract next year. So, you kind of need to find that insurance policy as well, but you also need to find a wide receiver too. Because honestly, I'm feeling more like Michael Gallup is what we shown from last year is wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
I need a true wide receiver too. So when I look at the wide receiver core, that's available as far as free agency, it's very limited. I mean, it's like Paris Campbell, OBJ, maybe bring back T.Y. Hilton, nothing really too solid. I highly doubt the Cowboys are going to give up any draft capital for a wide receiver because they value it way too much. So, a lot of Cowboys fans got their offseason wish list, DeAndre Hopkins
and Evans, being in Tampa, his name is getting floated around.
Like Evans and, Jared Jude, like, okay, y'all can play that game if you want. I'm just not going to play it, right? So it comes down to the draft, and there's a lot of quality wide receivers in this year's class that I feel like can be the simple plug and play. And what I'm looking for is a lot more catch and run guys, because I feel like shifting to a true West Coast offense, for those who don't understand, it's 3-step drops, 5-step drops, quick release, get the ball to your playmakers, get them out the space on the go, and let them go be, who they truly are. So you look at, Jackson Smith out of Ohio State could possibly be there, possibly not. But one of my favorite prospects is Josh Downs out of North Carolina. He's just a guy that can do it all. Clean route tree, can do a lot of different things underneath, and he can really just simply plug into that slot position and let him go. But he's also going to be interchangeable with CeeDee Lamb. So if he's there at 26 or maybe in the second round, I would definitely pull the plug on those types of guys. So there's a lot of slot wide receivers in this year's class. So I think that's where the Cowboys are going to go to. But you mentioned Jalen Tolbert, and I said that this morning. It's like, granted, he's not on my tab anymore, right? But I'm not picking him out the bar. Like he can still stay in, but he's drinking on his own tab. So I feel like where Jalen Tolbert really got limited last year was that, one, the Cowboys did not get him. I'll say this about pretty much the entire rookie class. They did a poor job of preparing these kids in the all season, in camp, and also in preseason, because a lot of people forget Tyler Smith, he wasn't playing left tackle until Tyron went down, and then Matt, well, let's go get down. I was like, oh, well, actually, we're going to switch you from left guard to left tackle, and there's no more preseason games left. So have at it, kid, right? And the same thing with Jalen Tolbert. It's like they should have been giving him rep after rep, play after play, all preseason, but something didn't click. And I think where he really got limited is that he didn't add any special teams value at all. So it's like, you're not going to play special teams. You're really not going to give us the upside when it comes to, out on the field, where we can't play. So you kind of saw Dennis Houston and those other players kind of leap him. Now, once again, going back to the Mike McCarthy West Coast, this offense is going to be simplified. So it's pretty much going to be like, you're going to run this route, run a slant, Jalen Tolbert, do that. Just run that. That's it. That's all you want to do, right? So I feel like once you take that thinking aspect away from him and just let him go and play and just be a football player, that should help. But here's the problem with that. You got a whole new draft class of people coming in that, can fill that void. So he's really going to have to step up to another level. And I believe he's capable of doing that, because a lot of people forget, like, Jalen Tolbert was supposed to enter the transfer portal to go to Alabama. Like, Nick Saban wanted Jalen Tolbert bad. He just wanted to stay at South Alabama. So I think it's just stepping up that level of competition, stepping up the language of the NFL offense really just got to him. So he's going to have to step up and emerge quick. And so if I'm Jalen Tolbert, I'm handcuffing myself to Dak Prescott all season. I saw a picture of Dak Prescott and Rashee Rice working out. Nope, Jalen Tolbert, I'm right there with you. So that's what I'm doing.
I agree, and I think I told you my one of my friend's sons plays on South Alabama with Tolbert, and that I could tell you that's a fact with Alabama, and he was loyal to South Alabama because that was a team that wanted him, from the beginning, and he committed to them. He's from that area, so I definitely appreciate it. And I'm just looking, at the class and receivers, and I need a big guy. I think CD is a guy that you can move all over, right? He can play the slot, he can play this, and I know someone said Michael, Gallup's underrated, and I think he was before the injury, but we got to see how he comes back. He definitely wasn't the Gallup that we all saw a few years ago. But I want a Michael Irvin. I know, hey man, I live in the 90s, right? I love them years, but I want a physical receiver that is just. We got some glam, but I need a physical guy like that that's just going to get the ball. Des Bryant type, one of those guys. And I don't know if there's one in the draft. I don't know if there's one in free agency, but that's what I want.
Yeah, to be honest with you, when it comes to the draft, there's not too many of those. Like, there are some taller wide receivers. Quentin Johnson out of TCU. He's about 6'4", but he's frail. Like that's not he's not going to fit that Des Bryant mold. Now there is a few guys out there that's kind of, it's a gamble, but the Cowboys like to gamble a little bit, and that's Kayshon Boutte out of LSU. Has all the upside potential, can do a lot, but diva, red flags, like all sorts of stuff, right? But if you're able to get this guy on day 2, I would not be mad, because he has the intangibles to be your fiery Des Bryant type of player. Now, I'll say this, I don't think the Cowboys even want that type of player in-house anymore. Like, because if Amari Cooper's comments was too much and that kind of got him pushed out the door, I can imagine what like a George Pickens or some of these other younger kids are kind of like fiery would have got. So I don't know. So I saw someone just mention in the chat like Simi could be that guy. Yeah, you would think that Simi could really step up and emerge. I'm not sure what really happened with Simi this year. I think it was like a hip or a hamstring, and they kind of redshirt him. But I feel like one of those guys are going to step up. But I'm looking for one of those guys to step up and fill the Noah Brown role. Like, whether it's Semi, whether
Mm,
it's Jalen Tolbert, whether it's Brandon Smith, one of those guys to step and take that Noah Brown spot away,
yeah.
right? But as far as being the pure wide receiver too, I feel like the Dallas Cowboys need to get an absolute day one guy, no ifs, ands, buts about it. So that's moving up in the draft and going and get like a Jordan Addison or a Quentin Johnson or something like. You have to be aggressive.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think that needs to get addressed, and I feel like the Cowboys, they kinda got egg on their face with the Amari Cooper thing, so I think they're kinda tired of hearing from it, so it's like,
Yeah.
"Alright, let's go get this wide receiver, and we can kinda shut people out," because one thing they really did was a disservice to Dak Prescott because, they kinda wanted to do this wide receiver by committee. We saw one quarterback on Sunday that can do wide receiver by committee, but not a
Yeah,
lot
we're
of
not
people can do
yeah,
that.
it didn't work the last time. That's what I mean. And I know Maury, he just didn't have that body language, like, in the chat, they're just talking about just not a team guy or whatever. And, coming from the school that I grew up, with the receivers, the divas, you could call them, with T.O. and with Irvin and with Dez and, all the, down the line, Chad Johnson and some of those guys. It was an attitude, and you just didn't see it. You didn't see
Right.
it with Amari Cooper, and that was the one thing that I went back to. Is like, all right, well, maybe not, because I mean, Michael Irvin would say, "Man, if you don't have me in on third down, we're fighting on the sidelines." He would
Right.
Yeah, that was not going to be accepted. And I seen a lot of times where Cooper was on the sideline, but we'll forget about that.
Yeah.
So the other area, before we wrap up, is on the defensive tackle.
Mm.
Now, I'm going to preface it by saying, I got to say, my man Neville Gallimore, that is my favorite intro, and I need him on the Cowboys so I can use it one more one more year. But I mean, I know we need help at defensive tackle. So, what do you see in there? I know what Payne from Washington was a name that floated around.
Yeah.
With Washington possibly franchising, trading him. I don't think they're going to let him walk for nothing.
Yeah.
What do you see in there? Because I think that's a spot in the defense if you're picking something. That and cornerback, of course, is somewhere we can get some help.
Yeah, I think from the defensive line perspective is like not just a defensive tackle, we need a nose, right? We did had Quentin Bohanna, we had Carlos Watkins kind of being your dirty nose tackles, but I feel like the Cowboys really messed up last year by letting John Ridgeway, the rookie that we drafted out
Mhm.
of Arkansas, walk and pretty much go across the street to Washington, right? And I think they were kind of stuck between Ridgeway and Tristan Hill, and they end up losing both, right? So I feel like a nasty nose tackle. There's so many in this draft, just a big fat nasty, as I call them. That's
Yeah.
what you need. But as far as like your three tech, you have, Neville Gallimore, you toss him out there, but you have Osa Digizua, and then you also have Chauncey Golston. And I tell people, I had no idea because I scouted this kid, when he was in college, right? How big Chauncey Golston was until I stood next to him in the hotel when we were in Tampa. And I was like, who is like this is like this kid is like he's massive. And so it's like I think the idea is originally we thought for him to be a defensive end. I think they're thinking of him more as rotational inside and outside when it comes defensively. But as far as the defensive tackle is concerned, I would probably go nose tackle. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't go that round like early. Like I wouldn't go
No,
first
no.
round, second
Yeah.
round, but probably fourth round, fifth round, you're probably going to get another guy to really put in there and be that center block from Micah Parsons and those linebackers. I feel like we missed that. And even with the run game last year, we're getting gashed. I feel like
Mhm.
that's a definite area of improvement for our defense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and that's right. I think everyone talks this thing. The Cowboys are the window or this or they're far. Hey, man, let's keep it real. I mean, they dropped 40 on the Eagles that were in the Super Bowl.
Right.
They beat Cincinnati, which was in the fight. Right, they were in the finals with with a backup quarterback, and Cincinnati was maybe some questionable calls, maybe that script of the NFL away from being in the Super Bowl. I'm glad Kansas City was in because I think
Right.
Philly would have had their way with Cincinnati.
Yeah.
With that
Yeah.
offense.
With that offensive lineman, Philly
Yeah,
would have
yeah,
ate.
I had no problem. NFL did me a favor if they
Right.
scripted it. I do appreciate it, but I don't think this team is far away. I mean, Dak is going to be the key, right? And McCarthy, it's going to be on him. And I know he gets a lot of heat. I don't buy into all the McCarthy hate. I think he's the best coach for this team. The
Mhm.
players love him. He doesn't have the ego. It's kind of what I was talking about with Barry Switzer and you
Mhm.
know 500 coaches couldn't have coached the Cowboys after Jimmy Johnson. You
Right.
know, Barry Switzer didn't care about the BS. He could take a beating in the media, and I
Right.
played it. He'll give it right back in a funny way. And I think McCarthy, with Jerry Jones always wanting to be in the limelight, McCarthy just wants to focus on football. Jerry, you do all that other crap. I'll focus on football. So I don't think this team is far away. Am I drinking the Kool-Aid, or am I too high? Am I got my blinders on? What do you think?
I don't think you're drunk off Kool-Aid, Mike. And I think this was my frustration because I felt like last year coming to off season, we wasn't far away. And then we pulled some of our biggest strings away with the Amari Cooper trade. Like I really expected coming off the first 49ers playoff loss in the wild card. Hey, sprinkle another draft class on top of that, maybe an additional free agent here, and we can get right back to business. But we pulled so many different levers and lost Cedric Wilson and lost Amari Cooper and let Lyle Collins go. Like we changed a lot of different things, and so we kind of filled the void. So now we're in a situation, right? You got to think about LVE, you got to sign Terrence, you got Donovan Wilson. So it's like, I don't know. I hope the Cowboys don't say, you know what, I can get us another Donovan Wilson. I can get you another Terrence still. I can, because that's kind of their mindset. But if they really bring back the core of this team and sprinkle a draft class on top of it, a few additional free agents, I feel like the Cowboys should be right back in the thick of things. It's just getting over that hump. But I also feel like one thing is, like you said, with Mike McCarthy, we have to let Mike McCarthy cook. And I feel like from a Cowboys fan perspective, my biggest frustration was knowing that the head coach and your offensive coordinator, your head coach is an offensive-minded coach, mind you, was not on the same page. But still, the ego of the front office chose this guy over here versus your Super Bowl winning head coach. And that's frustrating for me because we can saw, like I said, I dropped numerous videos like reading the tea leaves when Mike McCarthy came out and said, well, typically in my offense, I don't like option routes because it's too much thinking. It's complicated. You got to have the wide receiver on the same page with the quarterback, and it leads to many opportunity for interceptions, right?
Yep.
So it's like your head coach, your offensive-minded guru who's coached Joe Montana and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, the list goes on, doesn't agree with option routes, but this guy does, and it cost us, it really cost us. And so that was my biggest frustration. So if Mike McCarthy is going to prove that he's the guy for Dallas, I like that he has a blank slate, and it's up to him. It's up to him to show and prove. Now, if he craps out and we're the 28th offense in the NFL, well, then now we can know who to point our sights at. But now the good part about that, we have the insurance policy in Dan Quinn. So it's like, all right, that's the good part. So I really want to see what can Mike McCarthy do if he just has the keys to the kingdom and can really drive this thing the way he wants. Like you said, Mike, I like the change in culture. I can see the Cowboys trying to get there, trying to change the culture, try to change the spirit, have the red stripe helmets and do the Landry shift. And they're just trying to get back to old school football versus all the commercialized stuff. But of course, with the owner, it's just always going to be that way. But I feel like Mike is putting us close in that position. And the one thing I do like about Mike McCarthy as a Cowboys fan, all I ever asked was consistency. I was tired of playoffs one year. Okay, well, we lost to the 49ers. Now we haven't made the playoffs the next 2 seasons. Oh, now we're back in the playoffs. Look, I like that. Hey, we lost in the wild card, came back, won the wild card, lost in the divisional. Let's build off of that and show some momentum, some consistency, and eventually I think the Cowboys will break through.
No, absolutely. No, hey, man, we better. And I couldn't agree more. And hey, I want wrap it up because this man is another show. Like I said, hardest working man in the business. So make sure if you're watching this, you flip it over to CJ Tuck, CFO Sports. We didn't get a chance. We got a little distracted. I had some issues with the stream, so I had to do a fresh one. So I know it kind of screwed up some of the people who are clicking on. So I'll get it all fixed up and go from there. But I just want to say I knew this man when you might have had 200 subscribers, 250. You invited me in. We had a great time and really just built a friendship from that. Been to a lot of games, and that's what I say for me with all the social media. And I know there's a lot of crap that goes with it. The opportunity to build friendships with new people and fans of the Cowboys and make new friendships. That's been the best part for me, and it's made all of it worth while, even though we haven't won a Super Bowl a little bit. It's been good.
Man. That's what it's all about, man. I enjoy all the people that I get to meet, like yourself, man. It's like a brother and sisterhood, man. It's like family. Like honestly, I tell people, as weird as it sounds when I go to games, the game is just the cherry on top, but hanging out with everybody, that's where I really have fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, people like, oh man, why aren't you mad about the loss? I'm just like, man, because I got to hang out with Mike Tag in Florida. We had a good old time and went out, and watched football and had, what I'm saying? Like, I was on First Take and all sorts of stuff. So, that's what it's really about, man. The support from Cowboys Nation. Like, I cannot thank people enough, man. Like, for everyone who sent me $1 to go to San
Yeah, no,
Francisco.
yeah. I mean, you get a trip to the game. So
Yeah,
tell everyone where. I mean, they know where you're at. If they're following me, they're following you, and if they're subscribed to me, I know they're subscribed to you. But just let everyone know one more time where they can.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on all social media platforms at jtuck151. That's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, of course. And then my YouTube channel is CFO Sports. Come on by. We're doing a lot of draft stuff, so I'm breaking down prospects. About to do a live show. We're doing a weekly show with me, Boss Cowboy, Law Nation, Big Game James, DMV. I'm forgetting somebody else. I apologize. And so we're, a bunch of Cowboys content creators are coming together just as a collective, talking draft content and, trying to fix this team. And then, for the NFL draft, they'll be here in my own backyard in Kansas City. So I'll be in the media room. So I'll give a lot of people the behind the scenes type of stuff and interviews with players and all sorts of stuff. So I was supposed to be at the combine, but it didn't work out with work and different things like that. So, but I love draft time, man. Just not just from the Cowboys perspective, but to see a lot of these young players' dreams come true is something they always work for. And just the emotion that they go through when they get their name called. It's just like, it was so cool last year in Vegas, seeing it up close and personal. I mean, big 6'7", 295, men crying, there's crocodile tears of excitement, man. It's a very special moment. So
it's cool. I went to the draft. Unfortunately, it was in Philly, but I went, and I just tell anyone if you have the opportunity to go. That was Taco, right? Yeah, that was
yeah. So that's a double whammy, man.
But if you get a chance to go, but I appreciate it, man. You're like a big brother to me in this business. I do it for fun, but you take it to another level, and you got the Mount Rushmore of Cowboys content creators, teamed up, and you guys. Man. I'm telling you, the draft coverage that you do and the work that you put in. Like I said, I got an 18-year-old. My son is religiously watching your stuff, and he's actually going to be a guest on here. He's like, Dad, he goes, I want to show you what I got for draft stuff. So I said, hey man, we'll make it happen.
I should have brought him on. I should have brought him on after that Florida State Miami game.
Well, I had Brad Johnson, I had Dexter Carter, Florida State guys, and they let me have it. And we're working on. I got a couple other guys that are coming up. I'm mixing in some Miami. I got Dennis Erickson. He's going to be coming on. So we've got a lot of interviews scheduled. So again, you guys stay tuned. We were going to have a lot of fun on this channel between obviously Jimmy D on Monday. Kelly K9 is handling some family business. So I appreciate you coming on. But thanks again. And to everyone, I'm sorry about the initial hiccup. Your boy's I'm not a tech guy, so I still got work to do, but we're going to get better. All right. All right, man. I'll see you guys. Take care. We'll see you next week.